recorded. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for all being here today. My first time as chairman, so bear with me if it's a little bit difficult. Everyone signed in. As always, it's been recorded. That's just been switched on in accordance with the new legislation. If you could make sure your mobiles are off on silent. If you are going to record it, it's always good that we know that you are actually live, obviously. And the recording will be kept for due process when anyone actually wants to listen to it at any point. Okay, moving on then with the agenda. The minutes committee. That's just the three of us here tonight. Are we happy with the minutes as presented to us previously? Can we take those as being okay?
Well, I wasn't there, so I can't comment.
And me, so yeah, we're all happy that I sign those minutes. Just take this as well. Thank you. Right, apologies for absence. I'm taking it that Councillor Amy Howard is giving her apologies because she's actually resigned from the committee, so she will no longer be there. We do have some information on the members, and obviously Councillor Brown is also had to by fortune become deputy leader and is no longer part of this committee, so he's not being there. Two new members will be put forward at the December meeting to get us back up into full speed. So yes, we are in the big line. Hopefully one of which is Councillor Frost here, and he's just going to to that, and maybe and the appointment of President Lauren. Hopefully she will be there, although she's on her way back. So, item 3. Does anyone have any interest they wish to declare at this point? Obviously, if anything comes up, you can actually declare that as we go through. No interest in Okay, item 4 on the agenda then is a presentation from Councillor Richard Corbett, the leader of the council. So, Richard, I'll hand that over to you to tell us a little bit about what you want to tell us. I think it's okay with everyone. If there's any questions, then Richard will take them at the end.
To be honest with you, as a conversation, it can be any time. It's just really about giving this committee due respect by just appearing in front of you to tell you about some early thoughts and views on where I see us going in the next sort of 19 months, is it now? We've got left before we dissolve. That's if we get a Conservative administration in, but I've got a feeling that whether it's a Conservative or a Labour or a Liberal Democrat or some sort of coalition, that there will be changes made in some form or other. So I just hope that we haven't wasted a lot of public money in the meantime, but we'll see. First of all, the most important thing, and I think I just want to share with you a few of my thoughts on why I wanted to why I went for leader and what I feel that needs to happen. The first thing is important is I never really wanted to be the leader. I'll tell you that quite clearly.
It was just thrust upon you, wasn't it?
It was thrust upon me. I need to qualify that. I spent 30 years, half of my career, policing career was spent in leadership. And it is lonely, it is difficult. It was difficult enough in a disciplined, organised organisation whereby I could tell people what to do, so let alone with a group of people that I'm actually, I'm not your boss, I'm your leader. The boss versus the public, and how that, and seeing how Chris works, it was quite, to be honest, it wasn't particularly something that I was drawn towards. But over a period of time, I was eventually convinced to stand. I refused to lobby. I don't think that was appropriate, and I was surprised and quite encouraged by the vote. But since then, and probably around that time, I'm absolutely determined that we are going to do a good job, Adam and myself, in leading this group, in leading this council until we dissolve in 2021. And also another event happened in my kitchen, whereby all of a sudden you realise that you don't always use all of your brain, and there was sort of things sparking in. It's quite an experience to realise how, when lots of things are happening, how you quickly adapt and fall back into previous leadership experiences I've had, and then how much you begin to enjoy it. And maybe that's the part of me that I'm worried about, is actually enjoying it, because this isn't a meritocracy. You know, I haven't got a contract. I'm here at the will of the group, and at any stage that can change. But I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the first couple of weeks. It's been a great learning experience, and meeting the group, and not only the group, but also the leaders of our colleagues on the other side of the aisle. I spent some time with Councillor Randall and Councillor Lomax this evening. I spent some time with them, and it's really good to try to talk about how we can do politics in a way that actually benefits the residents and not just our party political views. And surely that's got to be a better way of doing politics. I'm not telling you I'm going to be successful in these things, but one of the things I want to do is work more harmoniously with our colleagues. Sometimes I get a bit frustrated when it appears that our Labour and our Liberal Democrat colleagues don't feel that this is their council, but of course it is. We are the council. It is our council. Every elected member has a mandate to be there, and this is our council. These are our officers, and we are working for our people. And I want to try and work towards whereby people genuinely feel that. And that may take some effort from both sides and from all of us, but I'm determined to get it, because I think we'll get better politics out of it. And bearing that in mind is that my first objective is just to, as Max Callis said, is to do the boring well. You know, just to continually ensure that we're running services to the benefit of the residents that they actually deserve, because they pay for them. And we need to make sure they are at not only at a high standard, but that we can actually continually improve them. Even though we're coming to the end of our time, why should we not be wanting to improve the services and the functions of this organisation? And I certainly get that feel from the leadership team, the officers, that they too want to have this continue their own professionalism to ensure that we go out firing on all cylinders. So, and that's got to take precedence over everything, over the politics, over my group, that we make sure that we have the right people in the right place, whether that be in my leadership team, the political side, or whether that be within my group, to ensure that we are just making sure that we are delivering the services and carrying out the functions of this council in a way which benefits the residents. I suppose number two is some of the big legacy projects we're doing. And this is all of ours. This is both sides of the aisle. This is our legacy. This isn't a Conservative legacy. This is a council legacy on things that we are leaving the residents. One of those is obviously the cinema complex. You know, I'm excited about that, and I'm glad, and I hope that we all sign up to that genuinely and want the best for it, and are optimistic about it. It's a big project, especially with the way that town centres are suffering from the lack of footfall. Cinemas themselves as well as struggling. But this is something that the residents have a desire for, and I think we can deliver it well. And I personally think it's going to be a good success. I think that ultimately the people will make it a success. we provide the facility, and it's the people that are going to need to come into town and visit the cinema and pay for their popcorn and enjoy the facility. So it's within their gift, but I think we're providing a great opportunity to start to regenerate our town centre and get more people in there. So I'm excited by that. Reach for Health, well, we all know that that wasn't something that the officers thought was particularly viable and desirable. But I think we, as a political group, as a council, all of us, realised and saw something in Reach for Health that would benefit our people long term. Not only the people of this district, but the people of the region, maybe even nationally. This could be, I always think about Stoke Mandeville and the genesis of the Paralympics. And having been the area commander for that hospital and spent time with the senior leaders there, what a fantastic job they've done from such small acorns, and I think we can do the same here. So, and also I think the professionalism of our officers to actually get this done and signing off the contracts last Friday was a real milestone for us. So I'm excited about that. But we need to make sure that we're again supporting. I'm sure there'll be some storm clouds ahead that we need to navigate through. But let's be optimistic, or let's be optimistic about the project and encouraging for our officers to achieve it. And I suppose the other one is the Chris Moody Centre, the swimming pool to the east of our district. And again, that's putting assets and facilities over that end. And sometimes I think maybe our rural residents feel a little bit neglected because the things are pretty much Daventry centric. But that's a good acquisition. I think we need to be understanding to the current users of that, but also we need to understand that it's a public facility, and I'm sure we'll get the right balance. But again, we need to have political leadership in understanding that there will be some bad news for some groups, and we have to be honest with them and say that we can't do everything for everyone. That facility needs to be open to the public, but we also need to do our best for the interested groups. So that's sort of the legacy side, and also anything else we can do. Bearing in mind we do need to make sure our finances are secure going through to Unitary. That's important to ensure that we are viable and we remain viable. But if there is some opportunities to create grants and monies, especially to the voluntary sector, and those sectors that may be a little bit vulnerable going forward as a result of Unitary, whether we can perhaps hopefully help them through the transition period, then we must be considering those things, and I'm sure they will come up as time goes on. And I suppose then moving more fully into Unitary, a lot of work's been done. It's sort of all on standby at the moment, following following the election. But I gave you the latest update as to where we are with regard to it. But there's still a lot of work going on in the background with regard to the various work streams, and there is still a lot of debate on trying to get that right, get the harmonisation right, get the transformation right, get the various departments fit for purpose. For us, we're such a short time away and so much work to do. With the shadow authorities coming in May, I can see that pace of things picking up quite considerably. But what I will say is that from my point of view, I've only been to a couple of meetings, but I have seen a lot of industrious work going on from our colleagues in the West and in the North. I am very glad that we have our West group looking at the leaders and the characters of South North Sans and the town. I'm pretty glad we seem to be of one consideration, and that is to forget about where we came from and focus on where we are going to. There is a lot of don't want to use this word, but concern about past mistakes with the county, but we have really got to get over that, because we've got a job to do, and we've got to set up something that will be beneficial to our residents. I know our previous leader, was quite candid about our residents being less well off as a result of Unitary, but I would I think I'm more optimistic about life in general. I think if we put the endeavour in and we put the work rate in, maybe we can get something that is of value and continues to deliver those vital services, certainly in children's and adults, but more importantly on the whole gambit of functions and services we provide in a much bigger authority to the residents. And we as rural, if we do get elected, and if we do represent people in this district or this old district, we're going to be very, very aware of how the money dishes out and what our residents are getting, and be very aware that they are disadvantaged. They are not disadvantaged because of where the spend is. And we need to understand the spend goes to the need. We also need to make sure that those people that have that same need in our districts are not getting disadvantaged because of that. And that's going to be a difficult balance. So I think that gives you sort of a flavour really of where I see things. I'm still very new, learning a lot. As I said, I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I'm really glad that this opportunity has come my way. I know that it's a season only, but it's a season where I hopefully can try and live the politics I want to live, and do the type of politics I want to do in a way that actually benefits residents, and maybe we work better together, but who knows whether I'll be successful with that. But I promise you that there's no hidden agenda with me. I've got no great desire to do anything else other than make sure I do this job well for this council and for the residents that we represent.
Thank you. Has anyone got any questions?
I would like to just a question as a worry. You mentioned that we all know what's happening, and we have to make the assumption that it's going to happen, despite the fact that there could be a change of government, I think, anyway, at this stage. But what worries me more than anything else is this is a bit difficult for me because I'm trying not to be selfish about it, but I live in the rural community, and so do you, as a matter of fact, and I'm very worried that we're going to be overwhelmed in this authority, in this district, by those who are not in the rural community, by those who are in fact in towns, even Daventry town, not to the same extent by any means, but that really does worry me, and I don't know what, as a leader, you can do about that, if anything.
I think first of all is I would ask, my first question is what are you worried about? What is it? What is it you're worried that you won't get?
I'm worried that services are going to cost us more and them less. I'm worried that we're going to be penalised as a rural community because the money is needed to be spent on the urban community.
I think there will be a harmonisation of who pays what, so eventually everybody will be paid the same. But I do agree with you, and logic tells me from my previous experience, when I policed a population of 173,000 people. Aylesbury was the centre of that command, but I had a massive rural area. And where do you think all my cops needed to be? And of course what I had a load of rural parishes and neighbourhood groups who were saying, well, where are our cops? And of course you need to put your assets where the demand is. Now I understand that, but I also understood there was lots of things that I did as a commander to try to mitigate that, to ensure that my neighbourhood teams were set up in such a way whereby the rules were not disadvantaged, in that if there was an emergency shout, if there was somebody phoning up on the 3 lines that needed cops, that the response time was on a par with my colleagues in the people in the town centre. And that was really tough. But it made sure that I tried to double up my response in my neighbourhoods and making sure we could respond to the rules as well as we could do in the town. It wasn't always successful. I'm sure there were times when we didn't do a good job because we didn't have enough people in the area. But we had to protect where the demand was, where the criminality was. Now this could be no different with regard to, like, if we have 100 children that need money spent on them to keep them safe within Northampton, we're going to have to spend that money. And if only 10 of them live in the rurals, my issue is that those 10 that need the same services should never get disadvantaged on account of us delivering to the 100 in the... So everybody that needs help and support should get the same service. I think we can do that, and we need to make sure we fight for that. But with regard to a general spend, it's going to be less in the rural because there is less demand or less need for some of those services. But if we can make sure that everybody gets what they deserve, I think maybe we could win.
Richard, just so we know though, that's not in your gift, is it, as the leader here? I mean,
no, that's fair.
I'm just saying, what I'm saying is this council is about this council.
Yeah, that's okay.
And there's the things that, for me, Richard, I've been Kenny as well, for me, just on your point, is it's how you see us sort of going forward to actually put those things in place as flags, if you like, going into unitary. But when it's unitary, it's the shadow unitary councillors who are elected that are going to form that policy. But around, hopefully, our sort of leadership and council decisions.
I think you're right, Mark. It is, but I think we can influence by making sure we all understand what the challenges will be and that we'll be up for them. I think what we will have is, I think, the balance of, I don't know what the makeup will be. We'll just say that it's a Conservative administration. If that was the outcome, if the polls were right and that was the outcome, then you would imagine that the vast majority of the elected members will come from South Northants and from Daventry, giving that balance that we need to ensure that will also. So maybe there are things that will happen by nature that will actually help us ensure we get to where you want to go, or closer to where you want to get to. But it well could be a Labour one and a completely different Labour.
I was thinking more along the lines, through the chair, that basically as leader of this particular authority, and obviously heavily involved in the organisation of the new authority, one way or another, that you would be trying to make all those points clear to them, particularly about the rural area.
I will tell you that because there are two leaders, South Northants and Daventry, at the table at the leaders' oversight boards and in the design boards, that is constantly there. And we are definitely, and we're akin. We know the challenges, but we also know that that wherever those children are, wherever those adults are, they will be
Well, there were a couple of points that I wanted to raise on your presentation, Richard, but can I just continue this discussion that Ian has opened? We know that you can't determine what the policy will be of any new unitary that is formed. Nevertheless, it's important that we know where you stand, what it is you're going to be there, you're going to be arguing for. And I was slightly surprised you said that you didn't quite sort of see what the problem might be, because I thought that across the council, across all parties, there was a recognition of what these problems are going to be. We know that council tax will rise. We know that there are quite a number of councillors on Northampton Borough Council who have spoken quite openly in meetings about their need for having Daventry and South Northants as a cash cow. Now, my socialist inclination might say that this is absolutely fair, that the better off parts in Northamptonshire help the people who are more vulnerable living within the largely living within the town. But it is a fact that we have got to face. And I think that we have all of us involved in the council here have at some stages spoken about the difficulty that we will face. Because any new authority, if we're going ahead on West Northamptonshire, a majority of the councillors will be Northampton Town councillors, because Northampton Town is a majority of the population. The legislation doesn't allow them not to be a majority. I mean, that's something that is simply going to happen. And I think that for us, and where we want to, where my concern would be that we know that the leader of Daventry District Council is shouting about, is how we retain a proper voice for Daventry. I don't just mean Daventry Town, but areas in Daventry. How we make sure that we still have local government. There is an argument that has been put that a body of 300,000, a grouping of 300,000 people is not local. It's in a sense it's sort of sub-regional, but it loses that sense of being local. And the issues that come up for us, and this gets back to the issues I wanted to raise, we in the Labour group, we recognise that Daventry District Council is, as you said, our council as much as it belongs to, to any other councillor. We are all in that sense equal as councillors. That is why there are occasions in which we think that the performance and the decisions taken by the Daventry District Council are totally crazy. We still believe that Daventry District Council is an important institution, and as such, it needs to be defended, which certainly has been my approach in the whole business of the organisation. But where are we to left it? I mean, things like we were able, as a district council, to have a discussion about whether we would look for a way of either propping up an old wall or knocking it down and rebuilding it at some vast cost. Now, we could at least discuss that. I would find it difficult to imagine sitting with a very much larger group of people, mostly representing parts of Northampton Town in Northampton, having a discussion about whether we knock down an old wall in the middle of Daventry or not. And it's that loss of a forum for that type of discussion that I think that becomes a major concern. I say we, as you said, of course we recognise that the council belongs to us all. It belongs to the citizens of the district, in a sense. It doesn't mean we talked about some things that that would be the district council's legacy. There are things that you, as a Conservative group, can truly claim as being your legacy, because we haven't agreed with it. There are things we claim part ownership of the council, but not necessarily of the decisions that the council takes. And there are some things that we will stand up to defend the council as an institution, but will be highly critical of the decisions that council has actually taken. So I think it's important that we retain that distinction. Your legacy is perhaps, might turn out to be leaving behind a hopefully successful cinema. It's also leaving behind the demolition of a much loved old building that the council itself had recognised as being part of the added character to Daventry. Alright, our legacy was building the Abbey Centre as a building that will provide low cost accommodation to the voluntary sector. But that's the way it goes. So I think we just need to recognise that that will always be there. But from what you have said, the thing I still don't understand, are you saying that under your leadership things will be different from what they were under the previous regime? Are you going to do things differently from Chris Miller? I mean, I asked that as a question, not as a, as a challenge. You said that it was going to be the same. Well, that's fine. But I just felt you suggested that it was, somehow things were going to be better. And if that is the case, what are the things that were done by Chris Miller that you feel should be done differently?
The political leader. Okay, right, first of all, cash cow. I've never heard that. I've never heard that in any debate. I don't know where you get that from. You probably need to listen to the right sort of people that are actually influencing. When it's my turn, yeah, it's meant to, it's now my turn to respond to you.
So can I just talk, can we sort of narrow it down to what this council can actually do as opposed to what is actually outside this council, otherwise we're going to be here.
With regards to the council tax, there will be a harmonisation, there will be a sum, that is up to the shadow authority to look at, and it may well be higher than we're currently paying at the moment. And that is something that we will have to deal politically, and I'm sure that the residents will either vote for us or not vote for us at the ballot box, so they have the final say on that. With regard to the numbers of Northampton Town, the makeup will be, if it goes to form, that there may well be a Conservative administration. If there is, then the vast majority of the Conservatives will be for the rural area, and we will influence accordingly. I am hopeful. Certainly one thing I'm really keen on is to have these local forums, and something that we at Daventry want, because we want to maintain some sort of, if possible, some sort of spend, whereby we have control of monies in our area. Now, apparently it works is in Bedfordshire. They have these local forums. I think it's in Bedfordshire that we were talking about. But we want to have some sort of that localism, whereby we still have opportunities for local councillors to have control over local monies to try to pursue local priorities, especially with a bigger unitary authority. And with regard to doing things the same or doing things different, I'm not going to get into what Chris did. I will do things my way, and there are lots of things that I want to do. And one of those is to have a better relationship with my opposition colleagues. If you want to change, you need to come some way as well. And to have, sometimes I feel there is a politics of negativity and pessimists, and I just find that that never. So everybody has to come. If we want to do politics differently, whereby we can actually focus in on exactly whose legacy is it. When we're talking about that, we're not thinking about the residents. All right, we're thinking about our own position in politics. This is the Daventry District Council. It's not split, it is one, and it's all about what we do for the residents. And I hope that what I can do as your leader is to ensure that the residents are front and centre in what we do, and what I ask the leaders to do in my team, to ensure that everything is actually front and centre, that it's actually the residents account, not our ideology, not what we think is best, it's actually what the people get.
Richard, can I just ask you another one? So I think, so obviously, there's a feeling about, your time as leader is engulfed by the unitary situation. I think everyone will agree with that. You're forced into that. You haven't got 5 years view down the line, like what your vision is for this council. But for me, I think what this committee and what we would like to sort of just have some visibility of would be, I've heard a little bit about your influence out there with the new unitary, about putting the case for Daventry, and we just heard about the forums. But for me, as I understand it, this council has to proceed in a way, in such a way that it's sort of business as usual. I think I'm correct in saying that that's basically statute, isn't it? You can't think, this council is ending, so we're not going to do things. But for me, it's like policy decisions, and actually where we go with perhaps a little bit of innovation. And it's like, will you be instigating and pushing and getting the team to put forward initiatives, or are we just in a holding position? And for instance, initiatives will be something like almost setting up shadow local forums, if you see, in one, just to, so there's actually something in place already that we can pin, that as possible new members we can pin our colours to in a chamber going forward. Say, look, we've already got one on the east and west side of Daventry district, and can we continue with that in some form or other going into the interim? And it's like, will you? Don't want to go into detail, but will you be like pushing for initiatives, or are we in a holding position to just do the best that we can?
Okay, I don't. We should never be in a holding position, and that's with regards to any of our services, any of our functions we do. We've got to be wanting to improve. The fact that we have an end date to this council, the public still want. If we can improve the way we deal with waste, the way we deal with climate, whatever it is, we need to continue that improvement. With regard to setting things up for the new unitary and having sort of begin to start to collect these partnership approaches, these four, what would they look like? Have we currently got the people? We have to do that, but we have to do that hand in hand with our colleagues in the other boroughs, because there's no point us setting everything up and then as soon as we get the shadow, they turn around and say, well, that was a Daventry idea, and you don't do that. But I actually think that is the sort of the ideas that we need to do at the moment. That will be the shadow authority that will have that. Now they're only 6 months away, but with regard to setting those up, that is something that we as Daventry will be saying, look, you are now here, this is what we need to have a look at. And that's where perhaps S&I can even get involved with, is that what does that forum, that group look like, whereby we're going to have a group of politicians that actually deal with local priorities and how do you get them, and then how much money do we have towards those, and what are those local priorities? We're going to have a highways authority, but do you want a remit to, I don't know, say £200,000 or £500,000 or whatever it is, to actually genuinely making sure that those walls, the small little things, are not lost. That is what's important, isn't it?
So for instance, if Councillor Ritchie comes up with a proposal, then as a new leader you'd be more than happy to at least to look at it and consider it to take. We are one council. We are one council, and what we need is everybody from either side of the aisle throwing in their ideas. Now, of course, my job is to try and win those debates, to actually try and get some consensus with our colleagues at the leadership level. But we have got allies, we have got friends, and I'm sure that we can actually move things forward. But for me, it's making sure that it's a bit what Ken said about still connecting with. In a way, you don't want to have a Daventry District Council in all but name, because what's the point of having a unitary? What you do want, and however this is set up, when you look at the map, is what are the natural centres for these groups to exist? Does that make any sense? Yeah,
so, over to the east, would it be, I don't know, somewhere like, Malton, and actually have a group looking after Malton? Daventry looking after Daventry, Toastal or Brackley, and maybe one for the town, But to have these almost pockets, and then maybe align them to the constituencies. But that would be my vision. But to have a budget, to have a committee, a forum, whatever it is, with real spending power for local.
And just to be clear, you're going to be looking for this council to be making decisions to push for those.
Well, we will be part of the decision. Yeah, we'll be part of the decision-making progress, and this is about. And to be fair, I had that discussion when we were on the joint committees. Now the joint committees will be resurrected if everything goes through and the structural change order is and it's the service of administration. Then those joint committees will be then kicking off again, leading up to the entry. So it's an exciting time, but it is important that at the reorg group, we don't want to be arguing about whether we should be doing this or not. What we should say is that, okay, how can we now make these forums work, and what does that look like for Daventry? But remember, let's think broader than just Daventry. We can't just come up with a Daventry forum. We've got to say, well, how does that connect with everything? But leave the development. So yeah.
So, is there any more questions for Councillor?
If I could just, there was one thing that you said, I'd just like
Oh, I
to...
got loads of them.
I'd just like to clarify. You suggested that you'd like the relationships between the different groups to be better.
Yes.
For that, I'm grateful. But I would like to say that I personally don't have any problem with the relationship that we had with your predecessor. He was absolutely straight. He told us straight when he disagreed with us. If we thought he was stupid, then we felt we were perfectly safe to tell him he was stupid. And on that basis, we had a good relationship. And I wouldn't want it to be thought that the relationship was not...
No.
Let's keep it going.
And to be honest with you, I've been called stupid many times, so I'm going to be quite comfortable with that. But yeah, I do want it to be different. I want want us to be more optimistic, more positive, and more harmony. And I'll do everything I can.
Thank you, Councillor. Feel free to leave us and run off.
To my other meetings. Yeah. Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is the corporate strategic plan and the performance presentation.
I've got this dodgy mouse that I can't use. Can't give us a clue. I don't know, I did wonder. Oh, clearly you did something I didn't. I just pressed the button. Press the side. Oh, that's right. Okay.
Pretty much achieved everything.
Great. Talk amongst yourselves while I get used to the mouse again. Go on, do that again. So what's going to be 3.2? Yeah, so B3 along here. No, just here. So where were you pressing? That one. Right, got it. Okay. Sorry about that. Technology is clearly not my strong point, is it? It's just a strange mouse.
Are you going to follow the usual?
Right, yeah, if it's all right with you, we've got we've got new people here. So just to explain, this is a corporate strategic plan that the council signs up to with its aims, missions, objectives, and we have something like 32 measures that we use to try and to actually look at how the council's performing. Obviously we have lots more than that, but these are the 32 that come to the full council. So what I normally do is talk about the ones that are in the red, because they're generally the ones that we need to be more concerned about. I'm pleased to say I've only got 3 that are in the red, and this was at the end of September, and I have got a few updates since then as well. So if it's all right with you, I'll just talk about the reds. We've got 8 in amber, and everything else is green. And I don't know what happened then. Oh, right, here we go. So the first one that's in red is this secure the 3rd secondary school in Daventry. This one, we do try to keep our measures of things that we know we are absolutely in control of. And this one, we are very much in the hands of the Education and Skills Funding Agency and Locate Ed. So at the minute, no change there at all, and we haven't had any further information back from them suggesting that they want to proceed. But it's not one for lack of trying, but something that we're not totally in control of.
Are we proactively chasing that one?
Yes.
We
Yes.
continue to
Yes.
actually press
Yeah.
it. Do we have any idea what the limiting factors are on this? with the authority, with the education authority?
Well,
I could hazard a guess, Chairman.
Everything on
The general election is one factor, and I think prior to the general election, then the government's thinking and time spent on Brexit has meant lots of things are not moving at the pace that otherwise we would hope. But I think I am aware that we are lobbying, and certainly for who are, as was MP, to try and get things moving.
I think my question has been a little bit flippant on it. Is it anything to do with where we are on progress on developments around the town?
No, not at all. And Tony used the very three words there I didn't want to mention, but
Yeah.
Brexit and general elections very much. It's in lots of things at the minute it's almost in this. Yeah. And I think Brexit's done that to quite a few things over the last 6 months. So no, it's not for lack of us, but I think there's a little bit of what's going to happen. And I think particularly uncertainty in the financial markets and businesses and what will happen. So no, it's not for lack of.
It's basically out of our control.
Yes, yeah, and that was always the kind of danger on this measure, because it's we can only do so much, but we did feel we wanted to show we're trying to pursue educational opportunities.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say that at the time this measure was agreed and put into the plan, we were getting very positive noises from governments and located in particular, but for reasons as we've explained, that's...
Okay, thank you.
I probably ought to know this, but what is the opportunity for the council to decide, well, perhaps the Educational Schools Funding Agency has got a reason for going slow in this, and perhaps they're right, and perhaps that there are better ways of providing decent secondary education in Daventry. At what stage does this come back and say, all right, well, this hasn't happened, so let's actually review it and think about it again?
I'm not joking apart, Councillor Chief, if you want to put forward a question to the relevant portfolio holder, then that's what we're here for, isn't it?
I think the fact that nothing has happened, then I think that I can recall it's probably about a couple of years ago that the council had the discussion around about having a third secondary school. There were different opinions expressed at the time.
My view is that it's so far out of our control that it doesn't really ought to be an objective of ours at all.
Unfortunately, that is decided at other meetings.
I think, as Tony said, bear in mind we put this plan together 2017 because it actually would be being renewed right now, but that's also been extended a year because of everything that's going on. And at that point, there were kind of different indications as to what could go on, and things change. And at the minute, certainly. It's not on their priority list either.
I think, Chairman, if I can, the last discussion at the portfolio holders meeting is this isn't seen as being dead yet. It might not be far from it, but it is still felt worth keeping the objective and trying to influence government.
Can I ask, which portfolio holder? We don't cover education. The planning portfolio holder.
Is the economic development, I think it's scroll across.
Yes, it is, sorry, yeah.
It's
Councillor James. Economic regeneration.
Because, it strikes me that we have got a project that will, it may qualify as economic generation. But on the other hand, education is something that normally is something quite separate, and it is not our responsibility. It strikes me that back at the time, correct me if I'm wrong, at which a third school was being considered, was also around the time that the UTC was closing, and there was a discussion about what was going to happen to the UTC building. There was interest at that stage, was there not? At least there was, whether there was interest from rugby, there was interest in Daventry in creating interest from rugby or from Spawn in actually doing something. Now that situation now has changed. And if there is a demand for having a third secondary school, should we not be in a position where we'd be asking, well, what is a demand from whom, and what is the evidential basis that supports this particular bid? I just feel it's something that is left there, that time has moved on, and.
So, Councillor Ritchie, do you want a question to go to the portfolio holder? What is the current rationale on
I would welcome that.
Can we do that as a committee? Can we not ask the question through?
Yes, certainly, Chairman. If that's minuted, then we can see the question.
Can we have that minuted? The current rationale on the provision of a new secondary school in Daventry?
And also, does he still consider it to be a priority?
Well, I think that's the rationale, isn't it?
I think just to say, obviously, when we set the corporate strategic plan, it's set for 3, in this case, an extra year now, 4 years. We won't take it off.
No.
We will reflect that something has changed. And, as Tony said, at this point in time, it is not completely dead. So, that it will stay there. And then if we get to April next year, when we look again, it might be at that point we do say at that point, this isn't continuing, but it will stay on the plan, just with the notes it's not continuing.
I think it's important though. It's a matter that's been raised, and if it's on the plan, there should be a rationale, a current rationale for being on the plan, with a view for either leaving it on or taking it off in the future. And I think that's where Councillor Rich is coming from, and I think that's. I think because it's slightly out of our control, I think that's.
That's obviously why we have a 3-year plan, because things change over the 3 years. And as I say, actually, I would have started it 6 months ago. We would be reviewing and renewing, ready for next April. And at that point, certainly, yes, it would more than likely come off. But given the circumstances, we've extended this plan for another year. So, that's probably, stretching some of these things a bit long. So we might see over next year that we have got a few that are kind of not really as relevant anymore, but obviously given the circumstances.
And I think that's what the committee wants to say. Just to flag up the relevance or the irrelevance of it.
Okay, the next one we have is E4.1. And it's in red. And this is the preparation of the planning brief for Overston Hall. So this is, we're trying to keep Overston Hall to get it redeveloped and rebuilt, etc. It's a historic building, very dilapidated. I'm sure you all know it well. And we want to develop it. In a nutshell, the kind of owners are trying to raise money to actually do that rebuild or those alterations, and we've proposed to them some various options as to how else they might run other businesses to actually get some, pour some money back in. So the reason it's behind schedule is they're looking at those options to see if any of those sites that have been suggested to them are kind of possible for the development that will then bring the money in. If they then decided to go themselves and go alone with it, we won't pursue that planning brief because they'll be doing it themselves, so we would then comment from a planning point of view when a planning application was received. There is a project board next meeting to kind of look and say, right, where are we? And we're not saying to the owners, right, you've got to make a decision now. We're talking, and it is an ongoing process with them. So it is moving, it is happening, and we're all very much behind actually wanting to renovate Overston Hall and keep it moving forward.
I'll be right in saying that has fallen slightly foul of planning, hasn't it?
Yeah. They lost the planning
the
application.
situation in its ongoing progress has fallen foul of the planning committee going forward. As it stands, as I recall, is that correct?
It is, and also with the vast amounts of money involved here, I don't think there's much confidence that the developer is likely to want to spend that kind of money on redeveloping the burnt down and ruined.
But just to be clear, there are further there are meetings and engagements, so this is still an ongoing.
Absolutely.
Process.
Yeah, there's a project board meeting next week to kind of again review where it's at and see, right, which way do we go next with it. So definitely ongoing. I mean, it's certainly unlikely that it will reach green by the end of the year, but there again, it will probably stay red until the end of the year unless there's a decision that it goes down a different path.
Chairman, can I just suggest in terms of the comment about planning, rather than falling foul of planning, what was presented didn't meet the approval of planning committee?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
it wasn't a pejorative term, it was...
The nicer words.
Yeah, that wasn't a pejorative comment, it was just sort of stating facts that it didn't progress because of planning reasons, I suppose.
And the only other one that is in the red at the minute is this is the preparation of the West Northamptonshire strategic plan. It's not that things aren't happening, things are certainly happening, but sometimes as it all pans out they take a bit longer than anticipated. And it's always a bit of an estimate as to when things might go through the various processes. Again, this isn't something that's solely down to us, it's obviously a partnership, we're working together with lots of different organisations. The issue, just as an update there, we talk about the issues paper was published later than envisaged. It has now been published, the actual consultation is closed and we're currently actually reviewing the comments back from that. So, work's ongoing, it's moving forward. Possibly it will still be in the red at the end of Q4, but it's a little bit of this is a joint one, people moving together, and again there's various distractions of other things going on.
Again, we're only partially in control of this.
Yes, absolutely. There is a member project board is due in December, and it has, I can use again the general election words because everything's had to be put on hold because of PERDA. So that was due in December and will now go back to January. So it's not always obvious some of the impacts of the election, etc. And then we'll possibly be back in Brexit mode, which I'm sure will have other impacts elsewhere. So all moving forward. So yeah, it is happening, but delayed because of things a little bit out of our control. And they're the only three I've got in the red. So I just did think that given for the 7 years I've come to these meetings and taken lots of stick about the recycling and the waste and the residual that I just mentioned, we're on the front page of the Loop having received, this is actually our second award for our 123 Plus service, and we've also been shortlisted for a third one. We were shortlisted for APSI and also the LGC award. So I just thought it is relevant to performance. We've had a real big turnaround there and we're certainly really on the map as to what Daventry are doing.
Yeah,
so,
and obviously we've got a report.
Yeah, so it was quite
on that as well. So.
Timely that I mentioned that. So I think generally we do talk about the reds, but I just thought I'd perhaps throw in some really good news on the greens there.
And I think as committee members we are aware of the greens as well, because sometimes it's interesting to know if anyone, and obviously that's why we look at them beforehand. If there's anything we particularly know why it's green when we don't know why it's when we don't fully understand why it's green, or even actually to say thank you, and I think that's for me that is a good news story. So and you have taken a lot of stick.
Well, even
in my time.
it's just nice to know that the scheme in itself has definitely worked. It's nice to know that it's put Daventry kind of very much way up there and being recognised.
And I think we sort of find that from the report that's going to come up as well. So thank you very much. Okay, Is there anything else that you need to draw our attention
No,
to?
not unless anybody's
Is there any other questions? No. Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed. On to we're on to part 6, which is the role of work programme. Is that right? The presentations from the members from the following task panels. So, moving straight on into that, the voluntary services support task panel, which, as we all know, is actually being looked after by Councillor Brown, who is no longer a member of this committee, so that one is currently a certain amount of abeyance. As I said at the start of the meeting, we are hoping to get 2 new members of the committee approved at the next full council meeting, and that assignment will, if that is all agreed, will be taken on by Councillor Frost, who will liaise with Councillor Brown and then bring it forward in conjunction as well with the other proposal that's come forward from the strategy group. So there isn't much more for me to say on that apart from the fact that it's not a dead project. It will be going forward and it will be taken up by a new member. Hopefully that will be Councillor Frost if it is agreed. But if somebody else comes on board, then I will be pressing them that they take on board that.
I'm pleased to hear that Councillor Frost is going to be able to do this. Have we agreed a sort of scoping document for what this is about? I can't remember.
Yes, I believe there was a scoping.
Yes, we have.
It just strikes me that next council meeting is December. It will therefore be into the beginning of 2020 by the time that a task panel will be formed and will be underway. A month later you begin the final year in which there will be any meaningful decisions. Is there not a danger that this task panel will be coming up with ways of telling DDC what to do in the future when there isn't a future?
Councillor Ritchie, I entirely agree with you. I've actually, speaking to Councillor Frost, I've asked him to take it on as well without waiting for December. So he's up and running and working on it as part of his remit of joining this committee. Unfortunately, even his first meeting, he's actually already had to give us apologies for that one, but he is actually on board with doing it. And I understand, but we also have to remember it's business as usual here, and we could say the same. We could say the very same about anything. Now, we've also had the leader here tonight. I mean, these are my views as the chairman while I'm looking at him. We've had the leader here tonight, and if there are things that we need to be flagging and going forward, then we need to be flagging them and going forward. And I genuinely believe this is our part of Scrutiny's role in this, is to actually flag things that should be thrown forward to the shadow authority. If that's making recommendations to this council to make a recommendation to the shadow authority, then so be it. So, maybe these things come to nothing, but if we don't do anything, they certainly will come to nothing. And that's my view. But what I will say to all members of this committee, it is imperative that we do jump on these things and get them out as quickly as possible on these task panels. Time is of the essence, and it's incumbent on us to do it. So it's our duty as members. That's my duty as well, because I've got one that I've promised to get out for the next meeting. So I'm working on that to actually get that approved. So yes, we've all got to do that. And as chair, I promise that I will be chasing those. I've spoken to the officers about that as well. They're going to be reminding me and prodding me with sticks where appropriate. And so yes, let's get them moving and get them done. So has anyone else got any points or questions on that before we move on? The next one is Councillor Robertson's Waste Services report. Now, obviously this was sort of put forward to us last time, a bit late, so this hopefully is going to come to the end. Now, I have spoken to Councillor Robinson about this because I think the thing that was missing was conclusions and recommendations. So I'm going to hand over to Councillor Robinson.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Yes, and first of all, apologies and thank you, Tony, for putting this in a more acceptable format. I didn't have the official format for the report, so therefore it wasn't in the official form. But and also I don't use Microsoft products. I use Google, which is an additional complication. So anyway, that aside. Now, when it comes to the question of conclusions and recommendations, the conclusions are clear enough. It's in the, more or less at the beginning of the executive briefing. But the recommendations, I have none. The reason I have none is because this report was always intended and is a retrospective of what happened. They can't make a recommendation for something that's happened, really. We're not likely to reintroduce it anywhere. We're not likely to basically change the telephone system at the same time as reintroduce it again. So recommendations are pretty much irrelevant from my own point of view. Although I do note that out of the inquiries I made, officers would like to start charging for additional bins, and which is not a recommendation of mine, which is what they've asked. And also certain councils have suggested that the general waste collection is not frequent enough, but that's again, we're not going to change any of that, because we've already heard that we've won awards for this scheme. Now, to get back to the nitty-gritty of the report itself, basically it was simply a question and answer session, which I was assisted with by now chairman, to find out how it went down. And we asked officers and portfolio holder, and we asked, we thought the best people to ask would be the parish councils. So we did all that, and they responded, and that's all in the report for you to read. Now, it strikes me that the conclusion here was that it all went very well. The thing was introduced very well. Okay, there were problems with recruiting staff, and there were problems with the previous supplier not communicating with us and all that sort of thing, but none of that really is anything that we can do anything about now. It's happened, we've solved those problems, and we've moved on. And I think from the general consensus is that it's worked very well, and it must be, because we're winning awards for it now. So effectively, that's really all I've got to say about this. It was a retrospective of the thing that we introduced, an important thing, that it went down well in the end. And okay, there are still people who whinge that there's not enough collections of general waste, and there are still people who are going to make suggestions that we charge. That's not my recommendation. If we do charge extra for various things, then that's really an operational issue that I have no control over. I don't recommend it, and but I dare say that if they feel it's needed, then they will put their suggestions forward to whoever makes the decision. I think we are really lucky in the fact that Simon Bowes is on our team here, and he has a unique understanding of business. And I say unique, he's not unique. He has a good understanding of business, and that is one of the reasons that it went very smoothly.
So you're saying there are no recommendations to go forward. I mean, would you consider just putting a recommendation forward that we would like to thank officers and officers and the portfolio holder for
absolutely. That's hardly a recommendation, is it? But it's yes. That goes without saying. I would like to thank all those people. I thought I did, so perhaps I didn't. But I'm not very good at that sort of thing, I have to say. But yes, it goes without saying. Well, and it should be said that I was cooperated with most of the time. Certainly officers and the portfolio holder cooperated. The parish councils were more of themselves, and some of them did and some of them didn't, but that's you're going to get that every time.
Councillor Ritchie, have you got any questions or questions?
No, I mean, I'm aware that there are issues that people will always raise about the waste collection, irrespective of how you do it. But in terms of the change that was made, I think the report, most people seem to think that it was a huge improvement.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was really, really pleased with the results of the survey that we put together on that, and I do think it's important that this committee did actually look at it to make sure it was. But I think my personal view is that I was more than pleasantly surprised that my own interaction with it has actually been pretty good. So, and I do think, you know, we've heard about awards and we've heard about putting us in a place where, you know, people are actually looking at our service and saying that, you know, Daventry District Council being the leader in this. And I think it would be quite nice if this committee could actually somehow put that forward to the strategy group to say, although there are no recommendations on any aspects of the service that we're giving, because in essence the survey didn't throw up any major issues, but you know, we would like to sort of recognise the work that was put into it that actually caused that to be. And I think the likes of Julie actually would be quite right to do that, because to be fair to her, as she said, she has actually taken quite a lot of I won't say abuse, but she has been the butt of the issues on the previous regime on this. So, you know, credit where's credit's due. So.
Okay, Chairman, if I can perhaps just respond to a couple of points. Firstly, in respect of Councillor Robertson's comments thanking me, it wasn't me, it was Catherine who did the work.
It came across as being you.
And can I just say to all members, those templates are available through Catherine if we are going to...
I should have been aware of that as well, but unfortunately I'm not very good at that either.
And also to reinforce the point and to, particularly for our new member, that Catherine is a resource available to call on to assist with S&I activities. That said, I think in terms of how we take this forward, what I suggest, and it's for you as a committee to decide whether you want to go with this or not, but the committee accept this as a final report, so then effectively it closes the task panel. I think the comments about positive comments about the service and about officers, I'm sure Catherine has captured or will capture in the minutes, and we know that there are no recommendations coming forward from the task panel, and therefore no recommendations coming from S&I.
Right.
In terms of getting a message to strategy group, we don't take information reports to strategy group, so that if there's nothing to recommend and no decision sought, then we wouldn't normally take a report to a strategy group. I think what we need to do is, and for you, Chairman, is to make a note to capture this in your annual report, which will go to council, and I think that's the opportunity to formally get something into council. Members will see the minutes of this committee, which will capture the rest of the information.
I'm happy with that.
Yes, certainly.
Yeah. So we'll have
and
that.
Catherine, just let me extend a thank you to you.
So we're okay on that, are we? Yeah. Right. Councillor Ritchie, we're over to you on item 2, which is the climate emergency report that you're
Yes. I remember what I actually said on it. This is becoming quite a big project. I'm grateful, but actually as a task panel, I was worried that it was only 3 of us, but it is actually 3 who were working, I think, effectively together. There are very, very few days that we are not exchanging emails on something or other. about the work. But the scope of what I believe we need to discuss and we need to, make recommendations on, means it's going through my mind about the way in which we actually handle this. We said that we would bring forward perhaps an interim report that could be discussed before we then move to the council. We're still intending that we work towards having a final report at the council meeting in February, having at that stage been through scrutiny in January, and the following strategy meeting, which is, I can't remember if it's late January or early February. Is there some way, normally if we were planning that the final report would go to scrutiny in the middle of January, you would expect that the report would be available to officers roughly 10 days beforehand, something like that?
Ideally, yes, but we recognise that there are difficulties in meeting those timescales. I think what we would ask is that it is circulated at least a few days before the I was thinking that we actually go in the other direction.
Given that this report is likely to be quite a number of pages, with probably about 20 separate recommendations on it, to try to get something that would be a first draft report that we would try to submit to officers early in December, so that we could have a first sort of discussion before bringing what would be the draft report that we prepared for the Scrutiny Committee, then giving a chance to update.
Through you, Chairman, I mean, the purpose of a report coming to management team before it comes to committee is to do some factual sense checking. It's not to comment on any recommendations that might come forward. That is for you as a task panel and for the committee to come forward with recommendations. So it's really about checking the facts that have gone into the report.
I appreciate that, Chair. My concern, I can remember that there was a delay in dealing with, or at least there was a concern that was expressed when a report of the group that looked at Dedekel in Middlemore made its report. That's something that there were concerns from officers. They hadn't been given enough time to actually look at it. Well, that was a trifling little report compared with the report that we will probably be producing. I think I put in here too that our plan is that we will produce the report in two formats, because we also think that this is a document that should be circulated much more widely. We don't want a document circulated in the format that would normally go to the Scrutiny Committee. We feel it should be something that was slightly more exciting and nice looking than that. And so we want to be able to sort of timetable in. Clearly we cannot produce and circulate more widely a final report until it's actually gone through the council, but we would like to have it more or less ready in time. I'm just concerned that, given the, I don't want anybody to put a spanner in the works. By saying that this is too big, it hasn't been fully considered yet.
Yeah, I mean, just from my point of view as chair of this committee, I think if you're doing a report, Councillor Ritchie, then it goes through the normal process, and if you've got to, if you like, grasp the nettle and sort of put it forward as that. Send it to the officers for their fact checking. If anything comes back that's untoward, then that's up to you to either agree or put it right. Because at the end of the day, it's your prerogative to actually say that. But I think the officers are entitled to point out that there may be notes on that. So, but it's still got to be it's got to be put together at some point. So, in essence, if you're going to meet the timetable, that's what's got to be done. And I'm sure if that's early doors, and it doesn't matter how early it is, does it, Tony? I mean, the earlier the better in a way on that. I mean, I'm sure officers don't mind if you actually submit a report, it comes back and then you submit it again. If you see, to sort of, to clarify any points, because I'm sure any points that the officers bring out they're going to be pertinent and should at least be answered. So I don't see any issue with that. And as far as the formats go, I don't see any problem in you issuing a report for this committee to go forward to strategy, along with a secondary appendix, which is a glossed up version of what you might want to present, and then part of your recommendation is that is presented to members of the public as well in the committee. I don't see any issue in producing two formats, as long as they're compatible, of course. Well, you can't have these two different reports.
We may have a third version of the report as well.
That sounds slightly bizarre, but
we're working. We've tried to work with Northampton Borough Council and with South Northants. We've been invited to attend the South Northants. I think I reported here, have got a task panel that was set up in the same way as Daventry. I discovered that I was wrong in that. The other boroughs, and indeed, other councils round about, have taken the approach that we advocated in the original version of the motion that was put to the council, but the council in its wisdom decided to change it and make it merely a task panel. They have got groups that actually respond directly to their full councils. Most of them have got budgets and dedicated members of staff to push their work forwards. I don't think that actually improves their working groups. I think that we are doing better as because I think it makes it more of a council initiative. The fact that it is councillors who are actually putting the report together, rather than leaving it to officers to do it for them. But it does mean that we're working closely with them. We looked at one stage into the possibility of having a joint report with the equivalent group in South Northants. I don't think we can actually do that terribly easily, because there are things that we want to say and we feel that we've got to say because they have been there are issues that have been raised by parish councils, by residents, by others, that we feel that we need to refer to and respond to. The issues may be slightly different from what you might want to talk about in South Northants. But we still hope that there might be what might be a sort of summary of the report that would be common to the summary of the South Northants report. Hopefully, it could be a sort of statement that might also be accepted in Northampton, so that we would, when we move into having a West Northamptonshire Council, if we have one, we are already well on the way to having agreed what sort of policy we need on climate change.
I understand what you're saying there. I think I understand what you're saying there. But I would say, it's your task panel, and you have to bring back to this council whatever you say to bring back. If your recommendation is that we produce a joint recommendation across the county, then so be it. But my point of view, I think you're far more likely to at least get a Daventry one first, and then maybe a recommendation that you carry on with it to a joint presentation for as part of the ongoing process that we were talking about.
It will go the other way about. South Northants need to produce their final report long before we do.
Right, that's
I think, Chair, just to go back on this issue about getting drafts to management, I think the Chairman made the point that we would be pleased to see some fingers as the earliest opportunity for you, and that's fine, and it can come back with support as many times as is required. I think I just want to again sort of make the point but the reason for doing for management to check the reports before they go on a public agenda is that for the reputation of the council, what we don't want to include on an agenda is something that factually is incorrect or would cause us some difficulty, and there is a risk if we don't see the report that might happen, and then the issues are dealt with in a public meeting which is recorded and may well have the press or public in attendance. So that's what it's there for. We will take a report, and in fact, we've taken reports on a number of occasions that haven't been through that process, and we run that risk. But what we're trying to do is not hamper the SNI's ability to get things through in a timely manner.
Well, what I would say is it certainly looks like you're doing some heavy work on this, so thank you very much, and we look forward to receiving the results. But and as we all know in this committee, as you said, it doesn't necessarily mean that report is the end of it. It can actually lead to another. It can actually lead to another stage. So, and if you see fit on that, then by all means bring that forward to us, and we'll look at it accordingly. Because as you know, this committee has to agree what we look at as a committee. So it would have to get through this first. It's an appropriate item. So are we all okay on that?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just thinking out loud. I'm not going to speak now. Keep the thought.
The next one, the next item that is being produced by Councillor Amy Howard, and it's about youth democracy. Obviously, Councillor Howard has actually resigned from this post. She's partway through this report. So again, similarly with the previous situation on this, we hopefully have a new member who's come along tonight to actually have a look at this, and in conjunction with Amy, I'm hoping that Lauren is actually going to take that over, or at least look at taking it over from Councillor Howard. And I would ask her, with all due diligence, to actually pick that up from Councillor Howard as quickly as possible, to actually progress it as quickly as possible. Obviously, with the way that this works, Lauren, is that if you can co-opt any other members to assist you, then you can do that. That doesn't even have to be formal. You can actually ask for help, or you can actually bring people on board and actually document that you've got other people on board. So if you are willing to do that, obviously I'm not part of the committee, but hopefully, because we are two people down, it's obviously not a good situation for this committee, so we do need to jump on this thing as quickly as possible. So are members okay with that? The last one is engagement with minorities. It's sort of links in with the previous one. I have had meetings before. I've had meetings with the officers and gleaning the information. So I will be putting something forward in the next few weeks to get that out, to finish it off on the next one. So as chairman, I'm saying that's what I'm going to do. So it's watching space on this. It's going okay. As far as I'm concerned, it's going okay. I'm doing it on my own. I think it could what it's sort of part of the way it does spin out. It depends what you call minorities actually as you start looking at it, but I could find it to what I believe is going on that one, but it is actually progressing. I think it's on my dining room table at the moment, so I won't go through any of the particular aspects of it until it comes forward. I will be finishing with the draft of that one.
Can I just ask a question on that one? It's an issue I originally raised with with this committee as something that we needed to look at, and I think it is important. One of the things that I think that clearly as a scrutiny committee, we're not just dealing with the improvement part. We're looking at the way in which the council has operated and the way in which decisions were taken. Some of us find it mildly amusing that when a motion was put to the council, arguing that the council should take steps to ensure that all residents here from Eastern Europe were fully signed up with the appropriate settlement scheme to regularise their status here. We were absolutely assured within the council meeting that there was absolutely no action that the district council needed to take. And there were only 4 votes from the Labour group, or I think perhaps there was one from the Liberal Democrats, in favour of the motion. Everybody else voted against. Yet within days, the district council put out a press release talking about the extra grant that it had suddenly decided to give the Community Advice Bureau and other actions that it was taking to ensure that residents were aware of their obligations under the scheme. I would just be interested to know what happened between that council meeting and that, and that thing, because we cannot look at it and say that that was good proper governance. It was a farce.
You have to show how influential you are, then. Yeah.
Well, I mean, let's then be open about the process.
I'm not quite sure what you're saying, to be honest. Are you saying that you?
I'm saying that the then leader of the council gave an absolute assurance that there was nothing that Daventry Council, the district council, needed to do, and therefore it was a non-issue. And the entire group that is in the administration all voted in support of that position. And within days, it wasn't the position of the council. The council was the council gives out £3,000 or something, so that the Community Advice Bureau could help them to employ an extra person or have extra time to be able to, to help with inquiries with people from Eastern Europe.
Through you, Chairman, the decision to award some funding to Citizens Advice was made before the council meeting where the motion was discussed. I wasn't actually at that council meeting, but I have listened to the recording since for other purposes actually. But my recollection is that there were assurances given at that meeting that other things were being done or in the pipeline. So I don't think it's fair to say that it was that no action would be taken. I accept that the motion wasn't supported by council, but other work was happening, and I believe that was explained at that meeting.
And I think, without preempting the stuff that I'm going to write in there, I mean, as far as engagement goes, and not to actually sign it, there is actually quite a lot of engagement work that is actually out there, that is actually part of officers' duties that they actually undertake. Not in signing up for the EU work.
Well, I have looked at what was, I've listened to the tape, and of course we have the minutes of the meeting that we can look at. In my view, we were misled by the leader of the council. What we need to know is whether we were deliberately misled because it was considered politically unwise to support a motion that came from outside the group, or whether the leader was misled because he hadn't been properly informed by officers on an issue that was coming before the council. There's no point in having any further discussion about it now, but I think that we need to go back and we need to look and see what happened, exactly what was said. My recollection, I may be totally wrong, but the impression that was given at the council meeting that there was absolutely nothing that we needed to worry about.
I mean, I think there's a personal thing there. I mean, my perception of it was that things were being done already. That was my. But can I make a suggestion here, because I think we're a little bit of an impasse, and I'm not sure this committee can actually move anything forward on that. There's been an offer tonight on on cooperation and discussion. I would actually say that's an ideal opportunity to take that up with the current leader on how we go forward and about what that was. And then then as a councillor, if you need to take any further action on that, which could be another question to council, it could be another question to the leader along those issues about the whys and the wherefores of that. That could be open in public, or it could be in camera.
But I'm raising the issue is about how we formulate and how we actually deal with our policies in terms of services that we offer to minorities. There was clearly, I mean, in my view, a difference of opinion when we put a motion before the council meeting, and it turns out perhaps that difference of opinion was artificially created. And I just feel that if we are serious as a scrutiny committee, which we're not really, but if we were a scrutiny committee, we would be asking what were the circumstances in which these decisions were taken and how. Was the council properly informed at the time? I think these are the sorts of things that we need to raise. And if we're talking about having a new relationship and working out what we need to do in the future, we have got to do that on the basis of looking and see what has happened in the past and what are the things that ever need to change.
So what I'm not following is, I mean, obviously, for me, there's a political discussion in council. I mean, are you saying that this council did not follow its policies correctly, or are you saying that you weren't fully aware of council policies at all, or whatever? But I'm not quite sure.
I'm saying that it appears that in this particular area that the council was misled, and that is an issue that, in terms of how we relate to people, to minority communities, that is something that this particular task panel, even if that is simply yourself, needs to examine. Okay, I'll take that on board with my. I mean, my understanding of my task panel was electorally on this task panel. Sorry, I misunderstood. Your task panel is?
I'm looking at it on an electoral basis, and you're actually getting people signed up to vote and get an understanding along those lines.
In that case, I will withdraw my suggestions as to what you need to do, because that is not the sort of task panel that I had originally put as a proposal to your predecessor.
Okay.
It wasn't simply about a voting exercise, it was about how we actually get people more engaged within the community.
Okay, well we'll take that forward, and we'll take that forward as on the presentation as a suggestion for a new task plan.
Yeah.
So any other questions on that?
Chairman, just one for you actually. The programme shows the final reports due in for the January meeting. Are you still heading for that?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so that moves us on to implementation activity.
This is me, my bit, Chairman.
Yeah.
So just running through the action plans, which start on page 25 of the papers. So the first one there being assignment 19, the needs of fitness and wellbeing, met in rural areas. We've still got one action outstanding, which is not due until 2020, which is to do with Leisure Centre East, but I think we've had evidence that things are moving on that. But as it stands, that still remains to be done in respect to that task panel.
So we are on we're on course for sort of thereabouts trying to get to that yet.
Yes, I mean, I think the plans for Leisure Centre East have actually moved on since the test tunnel took place. So I think the 2020 is a realistic target, certainly in my understanding. So moving on to assignment 20, investigation into cooperation between DDC and parish/town councils over major planning applications. Again, we've got one action outstanding, which is action 4, which is targeted for February 2020. So we will need to wait till we get there.
And that is ongoing, isn't it?
Yeah. We're then on to page 31, assignment 28, the sale of T-Deco properties in Middlemore. The action 3 there, you'll note by from the date that was due in September 19. It wasn't achieved in September, and the latest I've been able to find, and apologies for not being absolutely clear on this because I'm not clear myself, is that the letter is ready to go, or very, very nearly ready to go. It hasn't actually gone yet, but it's due in the next number of days to deal with that action.
Okay, so that is definitely happening, as definitely as you can be.
It's not within my actual area of responsibility, but having spoken to my fellow director today, he assures me it is in hand.
It says here, early September 2019.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what you're saying.
That's what. Well, I mean,
So it's not.
it hasn't happened within that time frame.
No.
What I'm saying, the latest information I've had is that it is due to go out very soon.
It was due to go out in September. You mean it's going to go out very soon?
Yes. Well, yes.
Yeah, it's now due to go out.
Yeah, all right.
As well. It's not,
This is about what you regard as a misunderstanding of events that took place now 2 years ago. It seems an extraordinarily long time. I mean, it is even about a year since the key decisions were taken. In fact, probably more than that, 8 months since the key decisions were taken. And trying to think when the report that was prepared by Councillor Brown was, went through this committee and through the through the strategy group and council. But that report did ask that a letter should be sent. I just find that it's taken over a year to actually send a letter. A lot of these people have, subsequently moved on. I suspect that a lot of the people that were most upset about the misunderstanding, those who felt compelled to move to other homes, are we still in touch with them?
I'm not in a position to answer that.
I was going to say, I think we'd like it minuted that everyone who was involved should be traced and a letter sent to them. That's really what you're saying, isn't it, Councillor?
Yes, and I think too that we should, on behalf of we as a committee, express concern that this hasn't been done yet.
Yeah, I think, I would concur with you on that. I think it's disappointing that the letter, more than disappointing, the letter hasn't gone out. After all, it is a letter. I will speak to Councillor Brown on this as well, because obviously he's party to it, and he was the former chairman of this committee. So I'll speak to Councillor Brown as to why he believes that nothing happened. And I think yes, we should say it's disappointing that it is part of this. It was part of this committee's work, and it actually hasn't been actioned. And I think we don't know why it hasn't been actioned, but we are disappointed in the fact that it hasn't, because there's no apparent reason for it. I think it's the issue. And I think between the two of them, Simon Bowers and Adam Brown should have probably come forward and explained why that actually was disappointed that they haven't.
Can I just make a brief comment about everybody involved should be contacted? You obviously got to include the words where possible, because we're not officers in an impossible position and they can't trace them.
Of course, they may no longer be on this planet, might they? I mean, it's impossible to write to a departed person, as cruel as that may sound, but it's true. Yeah.
Chairman, just one point of clarification is that the recommendations were agreed by Council in May.
Yes, I was going to say it wasn't a year. But still, May is a fair. A week is a long time in politics, isn't it?
It's a fair time to get a letter out.
Anything else on that, Councillor Shrewkay?
Okay, and then moving on to page 33, assignment 29, review of DDC antisocial behaviour current strategy. Can we as a council do better? This is the first time you've seen this action plan. It's a much more recent piece of work, and so 2 out of the 3 actions are done and ongoing, and the action number 1 is targeted to be done by the end of this current financial year.
And we're okay, we're looking okay on that?
Yes, that's the latest information I have.
Okay. Any questions on that committee? No. Thank you, Tony. Right, so we don't have any post implementations, do we, at the moment?
Not at this meeting, Chairman.
Okay, the next item, portfolio holder attendance. We normally, as you know, we invite a portfolio holder to come and explain their actions, or explain what they do, or explain what they intend to do. Does the committee have any ideas or wishes to cross-examine, speak and listen to a portfolio holder?
I'm trying to think who we haven't had for a while.
I mean, I'm thinking we very rarely hear from licensing, do we? Is that an issue?
Yeah.
Do we need to understand where we are on licensing and understand how it's
I sit on the licensing committee, you probably know, and there hasn't been an awful lot of business lately. But it would be worth speaking to...
I mean, part of it is to understand what's actually going on. I mean, obviously there is corporate governance, which is probably a favourite of yours, Councillor if you want to take people to task on how things are put together, and
I think actually Councillor Warren would be one of the best people to advise on.
Yeah, I mean, personally as chair, I quite like, because I know we can go to committees, I quite like just to sort of hear about how they see it and what the issues are, so if that is possible. Obviously, we're tied into dates here as well, so it's always nice to have a bit of a backup, I think, as well, secondary, if required. So...
There was a task panel that was essentially Councillor Barry Frenchman when he was with us to look at scrutiny at ourselves. And I'm not sure that it necessarily was that effective. I just wonder if there is a case for looking for a way of inviting a task panel to look at the whole scrutiny function. What was done with Barry Frenchman eventually, I think the only things that came out of it was we would have one extra meeting in the year. There were proposals that the committee should be bigger that were knocked out because we were told that if we make it bigger, we would have too many people receiving special allowances, which Trump was a ludicrous position to take. But anyway, I just feel that, I get the impression that scrutiny within DDC tends to be very different from the way that scrutiny is done in many other councils. And there is so much now discussion at sort of LGE level and so on, at academic level, about the value of scrutiny and how scrutiny, how scrutiny ought to work. And I just feel that we should be, we should look for a way in which we are looking for an evaluation of what we do.
I'd be interested to know how other councils do it, but I don't see how we achieve that.
So, sorry, I'm a bit confused. Is that a portfolio holder invitation?
No, but in a sense, it would be unreasonable to ask to a meeting to explain himself, the chair of scrutiny, given that he's only taken on the job. But it's the nonsense. I'm thinking though, this is the equivalent. We ask portfolio holders to come along because this is an area of the council's work that we feel that we need to question. We need to be probing questions. And scrutiny is an area of the council's work, but we don't have the equivalent of a portfolio holder for scrutiny.
No.
And I'm not sure how we would ever tackle that one.
I mean, personally, I would say that as, does that not come under corporate governance?
I think if I might help, I'll try and help anyway, Chairman. I mean, the scrutiny function is separate from corporate governance. They have different terms of reference and different bits of areas of work to work on. I think the equivalent of a portfolio holder for scrutiny is actually yourself as chair of scrutiny, as we've just sort of identified, and quite how that would work, inviting yourself to be chairman at your own meeting, I think would be interesting to see how that worked through. I think I can understand in the way what Councillor Mitchell is driving at in terms of a piece of work to review scrutiny. And that seems to be a task panel topic potentially, and a task panel was held not so long ago. In fact, it reported here in February 18. So.
I mean, I understand what Councillor Rich is trying to say. It's just where we are. So, at the moment we are pretty much task panelled up within the committee, but unless you actually do need a new task panel, don't you, to be looking at?
No. Not today.
Sorry. Well, it is part of your duties on this.
I can't think of anything I'm particularly concerned about at the moment.
Well,
I'll come up with something.
Yeah, I mean, we do have to decide. I mean, how do we know? I can't remember how we normally decide this on here. Is it normally an agenda item, or do we?
In terms of, sorry, Chairman. In terms of,
because we actually haven't got anything loaded, have we?
Future task panel topics. It's actually varied depending on the style of the chairman, and that's your first meeting in. I think you need to perhaps give some reflection and determine how you would take that forward. Certainly the previous chairman and the one before him encouraged members to come forward with topics. Now that may or may not be the best way to take forward scrutiny work. You are presented with other information, including the performance report. You invite portfolio holders here, and they will run through a presentation, and committee challenge them on that, which potentially could highlight an area of scrutiny work.
Yeah, I agree, and I think maybe we should have an agenda item just on future ideas for task panels as a rolling agenda item. I think we all agree with that. That should actually happen. And I think it's I've got one that comes to an end. I'm the chairman's committee, and maybe the compromise on that is that I should actually take that on going forward as it, or maybe put it on the agenda to agree next time if you see what I mean. Does that sound okay to you? If we do it like that, and then Councillor Robertson, I'd ask that you are actually looking for
it's useful that
take on, because you can't be a member of this panel and not be doing so. So
will help you.
I mean that is also in discussion, and I will be asking. I'll put a note out to other members as well, to sort of say, is there anything coming up? I was actually approached last night on the possible panel. I wasn't even sure about it, but I asked them to. I won't even mention what it is at the moment, but I'll ask them to go away and think about that and present it back through to us if it is.
When is our next meeting, Chair? Can I ask that?
It is January the
21st, I think, if the date's on.
middle of January.
At least we'll know.
It's 20th, 21st, isn't it?
We'll at least know roughly where we are with the general election results.
Well, hopefully,
which might be helpful in choosing, actually.
For the remaining same difference.
20th, 21st. 21st.
Right.
So if you could have something, so if anything comes through, obviously we'll be passing it.
Yeah, sure.
But are we happy with portfolio? Are we happy with having a presentation on the function of licensing and any issues that are arising out of that have been coming back? Because of course, as Tony says, there may be something that comes out of that that is a tailspin in how things are actually dealt with, or things that aren't being dealt with. Yeah, sometimes, just for instance, sort of talks about taxi drivers, but that's another story. Okay. So we're okay with that, yeah? Urgent business, is there any urgent business from anybody?
None been declared out of the meeting, Chairman.
Okay. That concludes the meeting until the 21st then. Thank you very much. And thank you. That's very usual.